Friends, let's talk taxes. Yes, I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it's one of the most important. Taxes are the backbone of our society, funding everything from infrastructure to education, specifically that giant money-sucking vacuum cleaner we call federal income tax. It's not just a deduction on your paycheck, it's a crucial part of how our country functions. It's the lifeblood of America, folks, pumping trillions of dollars into the government's coffers each year. This money is then used to keep the wheels of the nation turning. We're talking roads, schools, that giant metal birdcage in Omaha. You know the one. Federal income tax funds these and countless other public services that we often take for granted. Now, imagine someone yanked the plug on this cash machine. What would happen if the flow of federal income tax dollars suddenly stopped? Picture Uncle Sam, standing there in his oversized hat, pockets turned inside out, looking like he just lost a game of high-stakes poker to a raccoon wearing a monocle. It's a funny image, but the reality would be far from amusing. That's what abolishing federal income tax would look like, America. Empty government buildings, desolate streets, and a country struggling to maintain its basic functions. Without those hard-earned dollars flowing in, the government would be in a pickle, a big, debt-ridden pickle. The national debt would skyrocket, and essential services would be at risk. It'd be like trying to run a lemonade stand with no lemons, no sugar, and a bunch of angry squirrels demanding free refills. Chaos would ensue, and the quality of life would plummet. Spoiler alert, it ain't pretty. The economic and social consequences would be severe, affecting every single one of us. But hey, maybe there's another way, right? Could there be an alternative to federal income tax that wouldn't leave us in financial ruin? Maybe Trump's got a magic money tree hidden in his hair? It's a whimsical thought, but let's be real, we need practical solutions. Let's dive into his bag of alternative revenue tricks, shall we? We'll explore the possibilities and see if there's a viable path forward. Tariffs. Those magical taxes on imported goods that Trump loves so much. They sound like a simple solution, right? Just tax the stuff coming in from other countries and voila, problem solved. He seems to think they're the solution to all our economic woes, like slapping a band-aid on a broken leg and calling it a day. But, as anyone with a broken leg will tell you, a band-aid isn't going to help you walk again. Sure, tariffs bring in some cash, but we're talking a measly trickle compared to the mighty river of income tax revenue. It's like comparing a small stream to the Amazon River. The scale is just not the same. It's like trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon. You might get there eventually, but your grandkids will probably be the ones swimming in it, and by then who knows if the pool will even be usable. But here's the real kicker: tariffs trigger something called a trade war. It's not just a simple tax. It's a declaration of economic conflict. It's like a playground fight, but with countries and billions of dollars at stake. And unlike a playground scuffle, the consequences can be far-reaching and long-lasting. Suddenly, everyone's slapping tariffs on everything, prices skyrocket, and we're all stuck paying more for our favorite Chinese-made doodads. It's not just luxury items. Everyday essentials get pricier too. So, tariffs as the primary revenue source? It's a risky gamble. It's about as effective as using a bicycle pump to inflate a hot air balloon. It just ain't gonna fly. And in the end, we might find ourselves grounded, watching other economies soar. Next up, we've got the national sales tax, aka the tax everything that moves plan. It sounds simple enough, right? Every time you buy something, bam! The government takes a cut. But hold on a second. Remember those folks struggling to make ends meet? The ones already pinching pennies to put food on the table? This sales tax hits them the hardest. See, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, a big chunk of your income goes towards essential stuff. Groceries, rent, that emergency pack of ramen noodles for when the rent eats up your grocery money. Slapping a hefty sales tax on everything means those essential items just became a whole lot more expensive. Sure, the wealthy folks might grumble a bit, but for many Americans, it could mean the difference between keeping the lights on and, well, darkness. Now, let's talk about the big guns: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. These are the pillars of America's social safety net. providing a lifeline to millions of seniors, low-income families, and people with disabilities. But guess what? These programs rely heavily on, you guessed it, federal income tax. It's like a giant game of Jenga, and Trump just pulled out the bottom block. Without that steady stream of income tax revenue, these programs would crumble faster than a cookie in a wind tunnel. We're talking seniors losing their retirement savings, families struggling to afford health care, and a whole lot of folks wondering how they're going to make it. It's a recipe for disaster, folks, and it's enough to make even the most optimistic American reach for the antacids. The price of populism, inflation, and job market jitters. In this section, we dive deep into the economic turbulence that can arise from populist policies, particularly focusing on inflation and the job market. Remember that whole trade war thing we talked about earlier? It was a significant event that shook the global economy and had far-reaching consequences. Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the economic fallout from ditching income tax. The repercussions are vast and complex, affecting various sectors and demographics. Imagine this: prices for everyday goods skyrocketing faster than a SpaceX rocket. The cost of living becomes unbearable for many, leading to widespread financial strain. That new phone you've been eyeing, forget about it. That gallon of milk? Better remortgage the house. Everyday items become luxury goods, and budgeting becomes a nightmare. That's inflation, baby, and it's a real buzzkill. It erodes purchasing power and creates a sense of economic instability that affects everyone. And if that wasn't enough, let's not forget about the job market. The ripple effects of economic policies can lead to job insecurity and unemployment. With the government potentially slashing spending like a contestant on a shopping spree with a time limit, essential services and public sector jobs are at risk. Layoffs could become as common as campaign promises during election season. The job market becomes a minefield, with stability becoming a rare commodity. Suddenly, that cushy job you thought was secure starts looking about as stable as a unicycle on a tightrope. The fear of losing one's job becomes a constant worry. It's enough to make anyone want to bury their savings in the backyard and become a survivalist. The uncertainty drives people to take drastic measures to protect their future. The Constitution says, nope, legal hurdles and political roadblocks. Okay, so maybe abolishing federal income tax is a tad impractical, even for a guy who suggested buying Greenland and making Canada the 51st state. But surely there must be a way around those pesky legal things, right? Well, about that. The 16th Amendment to the Constitution specifically allows the government to collect income tax. It's like the Constitution's way of saying, yeah, this whole income tax thing, it's legit. So, to get rid of it, you'd need to repeal that amendment. And let's just say amending the Constitution is about as easy as teaching a cat to play the banjo while riding a unicycle. It requires a supermajority vote in both houses of Congress and ratification by 3/4 of the states. In other words, it's about as likely as Trump admitting he was wrong about something. A blast from the past, America before income tax. Now, some folks might argue that America survived without federal income tax before 1913, so why not now? Back then, we relied on tariffs and excise taxes, and things seemed to work out okay, right? Well, not so fast. Back then, the government was a much smaller operation. We weren't funding a massive military sprawling social programs or a space program that sends billionaires into orbit for fun. Trying to fund the modern American government with a pre-1913 tax system would be like trying to run a smartphone on a steam engine. It just ain't compatible. Tax havens and oil riches, lessons from abroad. Okay, so maybe abolishing income tax in America is a recipe for disaster. But what about those countries that don't have income tax? How do they do it? Well, many of them are sitting on a gold mine, literally. Countries like the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Kuwait have vast oil and gas reserves, which bring in a boatload of cash. It's like winning the lottery, except every day. Then there are the tax havens, like the Bahamas, where tourism reigns supreme. They lure in wealthy individuals and corporations with promises of low taxes and lax regulations. It's a system that works for them, but let's be real. America isn't exactly known for its laid-back tropical vibes. What's something people don't know about the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE? It might just be the wild card in the debate over abolishing income tax. Imagine a team dedicated solely to optimizing how the government operates. They could bring some intriguing ideas to the table. First up, policy research and proposal development. DOGE could dive deep into the economic implications of abolishing income tax, exploring alternatives like consumption taxes or tariffs. By leveraging insights from experts, they could develop policy proposals that aim to simplify the tax code while ensuring fiscal stability. Public education and advocacy would be another crucial role. DOGE could help demystify the complexities of tax policy for the public, explaining how a new system might work. They could showcase models like Rep. Buddy Carter's Fair Tax Act, highlighting the potential benefits and drawbacks. Reducing government overhead is where DOGE could really shine. By cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, they could make a compelling case for managing government finances with less reliance on income tax revenue. This might involve streamlining federal operations and reducing the costs associated with income tax collection. Legislative support and reform would be another area where DOGE could contribute. Working with Congress, they could help draft legislation to replace income tax with an alternative revenue source. Navigating the political landscape would be challenging, but DOGE's influence could be pivotal in building bipartisan support. If the idea of abolishing income tax gains traction, DOGE would be essential for implementation and transition planning. They would ensure that the IRS or its equivalent could implement changes smoothly, potentially restructuring agencies or even abolishing the IRS entirely. Finally, monitoring and adjustment would be key. Post-implementation, DOGE would need to keep a close eye on the effects of new tax policies on the economy, government revenue, and public welfare, making adjustments as necessary. While the actual abolition of income tax would require significant legislative action and public support, DOGE could play a crucial role in navigating the complex economic and social considerations involved. It's a tall order, but with clear, unbiased planning, it just might be possible. The art of the deal. Breaker Trump's taxing dilemma. In this chapter, we explore the potential outcomes of abolishing the IRS. While some argue that it could simplify the tax system and reduce government overhead, others caution that it might lead to significant revenue shortfalls and economic instability. It's crucial to consider both the benefits and drawbacks, and to approach the idea with a balanced perspective. The Department of Government Efficiency could play a key role in researching and implementing such a transition, ensuring that any changes are carefully planned and executed. It's a recipe for chaos, and one that would leave America worse off than a raccoon trying to cheat at poker. Trump might be a master negotiator, but even he would struggle to spin this one into a win. Sometimes even the most outlandish ideas need to be filed away under things that sound good, but would actually be a terrible idea. And this, my friends, could be one of those. Thanks for watching.